It's finally here, and after 9 years of waiting and multiple videos of us discussing, we get to share our thoughts on Rocksteady's new Arkhamverse game. I'm Pynn, this is Critical Hit, and today we're reviewing Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. If you've watched any of our previous videos, you'll know we went into this with some fairly low expectations. I love the original Arkham games, and still think of Rocksteady fondly for them, but everything from the marketing material, leaks about the story, key team members leaving, them not allowing early reviews, and the live service aspects put the old hype meter on this one running to empty. And after playing it, I can honestly say, the game's not as bad as I was expecting. Before you get up in arms about that and destroy the comment section, let me explain. I went in expecting something similar to Gotham Knights, and I'm happy to report they got a lot of things better this time. The traversal feels pretty good, every character has a different way of getting around, and it feels somewhat unique. I mean, I personally like Captain Boomerang and how he essentially teleports. The combat feels somewhat satisfying, I mean as long as you stick to range combat. And the story for the first hour did actually make me want to progress through and see what was going to happen. I also did not get a lot of crashes, and I've seen people report a lot about disconnecting from the servers, but I was playing solo. But beware, I've actually seen a lot of it on social media. The problems start once you get about 2 hours into the game, because you've seen essentially everything it has to offer. And at this point, I think all developers know gamers hate escort quests. As far as I'm concerned, escort quests and fetch quests are the two most cardinal sins you can create in gaming. But if you're not like me and you like escort quests, this game's gonna have you covered. You do at least a dozen of them during the main story. The rest are destroy a few enemies to create a weak spot and destroy a final object. At first it's somewhat fun because the combat feels okay, but that quickly wears off. It starts to feel incredibly repetitive before the game even finishes, and the side quests are just rinse and repeat of the same simple story missions. And this is a live service game, so when it ends, of course they give you the be ready for the next thing to happen trope. But I gotta tell you, I could not have been less excited to continue to play these same boring missions. And the boss fights, which were at least different, were not fantastic. In a lot of cases, they would just have 2 or 3 very easy to dodge movesets, at which point they become vulnerable and then they become a bullet sponge. And it really made me think of games like Final Fantasy 16 during this, because they did really long boss fights well. And if you're looking for a good game in boss fights, maybe check that one out instead. But speaking of bosses, the rest of the review is going to contain spoilers, so now's your chance to sneak away into the shadows if you don't want the story spoiled for you. This is the part of the game I was worried about the most. After leaks we covered late last year, I knew this was coming, but even knowing what was coming, the game still managed to disappoint me every step of the way. Now don't get me wrong, the voice acting was actually really good, and I liked the interaction between the Suicide Squad members. I also understand in a game called Kill the Justice League, you're gonna have to kill our favorite heroes. But honestly, every time you killed the Justice League member, it was just treated as a bad joke. So the first boss is the Flash, and I was happy not to be killing the same boring purple minions, of course. So instead, we got a boring boss with 2 movesets, and when he dies, he just drops down and dies. Then Captain Boomerang whips out his Johnson, and takes a big ol' piss all over his corpse. It felt like it was done in incredibly poor taste, but the rest of Suicide Squad just complimented him on the size of his package, and just made it sound even worse throughout the whole experience. It really wasn't a funny joke, it didn't land, and it just felt really disrespectful to one of the greatest heroes, well, maybe in our world, but of course, in the DC universe. And after that's finished, next up we get to tackle Green Lantern. And his boss fight might be the best, maybe. I mean, it's still not fantastic, but at least the mechanics of destroying his constructs felt a little different in aspect of the game. When you do kill him, they take off his ring, and then he sits in his boxers, and this again is played as not a very well-written joke. Also, Killer Shark uses the ring after. I thought the ring chose the new worthy user or owner, but again, damn the lore, it just has to be funny. He tries to eat the rest of the Suicide Squad with a construct, and I know this doesn't really follow the lore, so this actually made me very curious about who they consulted on this project. Ended up finding out it was mostly feminists or woke groups. Not really comic related, but you know what? More to follow on that later. Our third boss is Batman, and I knew the rumors, but come on. Batman made Rocksteady Studios. This is what defined them as a studio, put their name on the map, made people love them. And there was actually a solid 10-minute scene in a museum where it shows the past exploits of the Arkhamverse while you're being hunted, and I actually thought that was done pretty well. But you heard me right, 10 minutes. I know you have to beat the Justice League, but Batman's portion just felt half-baked. This is a guy that prepares for every scenario, who, if he prepares enough, he can even beat omnipotent beings. and he gets outsmarted by Harley Quinn on the fear toxin and then outgunned by the Suicide Squad right after. His boss fight involves Scarecrow fear toxin, and you're treated to a fight that is reminiscent of the Scarecrow fights in the Arkham games. A big boss with weak points, and you shoot at it. But it is different. It was kind of boring, but it was also serviceable, I suppose. But after they fight Batman, they take him to Lex Luthor, and they gotta make some new kryptonite to fight Superman because the green stuff just doesn't work anymore. Once they have it, they take him out to a bench, and Harley ends up making a terrible speech that felt like it was almost supposed to be like a, "You had your time, now it's our time. The Arkham series is done. Welcome Suicide Squad." I mean, they say that. She actually says those words, but also, it felt like she meant that in spirit. Then, with the gun in hand, Harley points it at Batman's face and pulls the trigger. It wasn't treated like a joke, but instead it was just so poorly done to a hero that has seen such success for your studio. I was prepared for this, and I watched it and it still made me angry, and I understand why it's garnered so much online hate. After that, we go fight Superman, and again his fight is a little different. It's a little contrived because how do you fight Superman? But of course the Suicide Squad win. And nothing special happens here, it's just an unceremoniously end to the world's greatest hero. At least they don't desecrate his corpse. And if you're a big DC fan, you're gonna notice I missed one Justice League member. I didn't mention one, but they are in the game. Wonder Woman, of course, but she's not a bad guy. She's actually somewhat of a quasi-ally throughout the game. She fights Superman earlier in the game, so we find out the green kryptonite doesn't work, and Superman kills her. And this death is done incredibly well, and it gives you a truly heroic send-off. Harley Quinn even has a few moments of heartfelt praise for the Amazon warrior. She is the only Justice League member to get this, and despite Batman believing in Harley, multiple times trying to rehabilitate her, Wonder Woman gets the send-off that he deserved. Now, I'm not saying Wonder Woman should not have got this. I would have liked if all the heroes got something similar. But Batman made Rocksteady. This felt so incredibly off that you would not give him this kind of respect. And remember how I said there was a woke group consulting? Well, the company Sweet Baby was consulting, and similarly they were used for Spider-Man 2 and a few larger games like God of War Ragnarok. And in their own words, they help with driving a more diverse narrative and character creation. You want to know why Harley Quinn doesn't look sexy anymore? Well, look no further. Because that woman looks too good for my game is of course something every gamer says. But before I go off on another tangent, I wanted to say I have heard rumors that the late Kevin Conroy's last time as Batman may be in a new movie upcoming. This is unconfirmed, and the director of one of the two films so far has denied this, but I figured I would let you know, even though it could just be damage control. I have also heard rumors of a DLC coming in 6 months that would reverse the storyline and return the Justice League, but that's beyond stupid. I am tired of the multiverse being a crux for lazy writing. The trope of you woke up and it was all a dream was terrible when it first started, and this is just a 21st century iteration of it. S made me watch Twilight, and I finally got a modicum of interest at the very end. And you're gonna know the scene I'm talking about if you've seen it. You know, the big fight where it all breaks down, they finally have some real stakes going on. Only for it to be ruined because none of it really happened, giving the series no real redemption arc. This is no different. Stop using the multiverse. We were over it before it even began. Alright, we're on to the last boss. The big bad, who we've been waiting to fight. And it's Brainiac, and what did they do? They turn him into the Flash. And he fights with the exact same movesets as the Flash. Except this time he has minions. And I'm not joking, there's no extra phases. That's one phase of fighting him, and then you beat him and the game ends. There's nothing special to it, it's just a rinse and repeat, like the rest of the quests are in the game. This game had up to 9 years in development since the last one of Rocksteady's. It confirmed at least 7 of those were in development. What did they do with all that time that they could not come up with something original? And to put that into perspective, that's as long as the rest of the Arkham trilogy combined had. It really feels like this game was just a mash of a couple different genres of games, but none of them really land. I didn't like Marvel's Avengers for its live service aspect, and this game even feels less satisfying. I have been worried about Rocksteady Studios since they lost 2 key developers in Stefan Hill and Jamie Walker in October of 2022. It really does feel like they lost their way, and when you are bringing in woke consultants and losing key developers, I don't have much hope for their future. This game says at the end it's got 13 additional Brainiacs, or what sounds like 13 more seasons to come. But at this point, I would be surprised if it made it to Season 3. You know what, Rocksteady really should have been allowed to create a great single player experience. It's what they know, it's what they do, and it's what works. I would have loved to see maybe just, Superman this time. But those are my thoughts on Suicide Squad. I know I had a lot bad to say, but honestly, you may enjoy it for an hour or two if you do play it. I would just definitely wait for a sale. If you play the game, let me know your thoughts down below. If not, let me know what you think of Rocksteady's new direction. I appreciate you sticking with me till the end, and leaving a like and subscribing really helps us continue what we do. I'm Pynn, you're awesome, thanks for watching, see you in the next video.